They lied to you. They made you believe that being a man means chasing pleasure, attention, and validation all the time. And the more you chase, the further you move away from yourself. The truth is harsh, but liberating. Your energy is being drained by a system that profits from your distraction. Carl Jung once said, "What you don't bring to consciousness controls you." And what controls you the most today is invisible. It's the impulses that control your mind without you realizing it. What no one tells you is that a man's true strength lies not in the desire he arouses in others, but in what he masters within himself. And mastering the mind, especially the sexualized mind, is like discovering a secret weapon. A desensualized mind is like a sharp saber, silent, precise, lethal. While most people are distracted, you learn to focus. While they lose energy, you multiply yours. And that takes you to another level. You might think this is impossible. But what if I showed you that thousands of men are already experiencing this silent revolution? What if you understood that semen retention is not repression, but transmutation? That it doesn't keep you away from the world, but puts you in control of it? That you don't need to isolate yourself, just learn to use your energy strategically? Well, what seems counterintuitive is exactly what transforms. Today you're going to discover a path that goes against everything you've been taught, but that will lead you to everything you've always wanted. Because at the end of the day, it's not about fighting desire. It's about taking that desire, channeling it, transforming it, and building a life that no one can take away from you. Are you ready? From an early age, men learn that being desired means being valuable. This belief takes hold almost invisibly, fueled by music, movies, and social media. The problem is that this association between personal value and sexual validation turns men into products, walking showcases of performance, beauty, and conquest. And when they are not desired, they feel invisible, as if they were less of a man. This is not self-esteem, it is an addiction to reflexes. It is a game in which they always lose, because the ruler is external. The entertainment industry understands this very well. Just look at commercials for cars, perfumes, and clothes. There is always a woman dazzled by the man who has it. The message is clear: buy it, conquer it, be desired. It is subtle, but it works. For example, how many young men invest in gyms not for their health, but to become more attractive? And when this body does not bring the expected results, what is left? Frustration, anxiety, and comparison. Semen retention comes into play at this point as a silent revolt against this manipulation. The manipulation of desire even conditions behavior on social media. You post a filtered photo, looking for likes, comments, validation. And if none come, doubt, questioning, and emptiness set in. A man who depends on the reaction of others to know who he is in the hands of the system. That's why when he starts to practice semen retention, it's not just about sexuality, it's about regaining control. It's like unplugging the cable that kept him fed by illusion and plugging in the internal socket of his own energy. This addiction to being desired even affects life decisions. There are men who choose a car, an outfit, even a profession thinking about attracting more women. Have you ever seen this? It is the archetype of the seducer in its most superficial form, living a play that he does not even know was written for him. Semen retention, in this scenario, is a gateway to liberation. It is the moment when he stops asking himself, "What do they want?" and starts asking, "What do I want to be?" A powerful inversion. The interesting thing is that when a man stops seeking external desire, he starts to emanate a different energy. It's not neediness, it's presence. It's not seduction, it's authenticity. And this change, ironic or not, tends to attract more than any previous effort. Because nothing is more magnetic than a man who isn't trying to impress anyone. But this change only happens when he faces the second step head-on: what to do with all that energy that was previously wasted. Many people confuse desexualization with repression, as if a man who practices semen retention is fighting against his nature. But it is exactly the opposite. He is recognizing the strength of this energy and deciding to use it consciously. It is not about being cold, it is about being focused. Desexualizing the mind is like removing the background noise from a song. The sound becomes clearer, purer. And the man begins to hear what really matters. Sexual energy is one of the most powerful energies in the human body. Carl Jung said that if it is not channeled, it manifests itself in destructive or superficial forms. Now, just think, what would happen if this fire were used to create something real? A project, a business, a book, even a strong body, but for health, not vanity. That is what transmutation does. It takes what would be lost in seconds of pleasure and transforms it into days, weeks, and years of progress. Desexualizing the mind does not mean ceasing to feel desire, but rather ceasing to be controlled by it. A simple example: when a desexualized man sees a beautiful woman on the street, he does not become a hypnotized zombie. He observes, recognizes, and moves on. He has more control over his gaze, his thoughts, his impulses. This gives him freedom. And more, it gives him power. Because whoever controls his own mind, controls his own life. And this type of presence is rare, magnetic, and respected. If you are just starting out with semen retention and want to learn how to practice it the right way, safely and with results, I have prepared an essential ebook for beginners. It is a direct, simple, and transformative step-by-step guide. The link is in the first pinned comment. It's like taming a wild horse. You don't kill the horse, nor do you let it run wild. You learn to guide it. A mind full of erotic images, impulsive desires, and constant fantasies is like this unruly horse. That's why many men feel exhausted, even without doing anything. They are being drained internally. The practice of semen retention teaches men to channel this horse. And when they learn, productivity increases, clarity increases, and focus becomes laser-like. The most curious thing: when a man stops living by sexual impulse, he discovers much deeper pleasures. Like sitting in silence and having peace. Like feeling proud of himself at the end of the day. Like seeing real progress, not just crumbs of dopamine. The desensualized mind opens up to something greater. And when this happens, a man becomes capable of creating a source of energy so stable that he no longer needs to beg for approval. This naturally leads him to see the next blind spot in the system: emotional imprisonment disguised as freedom. Most men believe that freedom means being able to do whatever they want, with whomever they want, whenever they want. But this is just an illusion sold as an achievement. True freedom begins when a man no longer needs external stimuli to feel complete. When he no longer depends on praise, affection, sex, or likes to validate who he is. This is emotional autonomy, the ability to generate internal value without external crutches. A man with emotional autonomy is not cold, he is stable. He feels, but he does not drown in what he feels. He can like someone and still not beg for attention. He can have a relationship and not lose himself in it. This is built with practice, and semen retention plays an essential role in this process. Because by retaining, the man learns to hold back, to contain, to not give in to any impulse, and this trains the mind and heart to act with wisdom, not with need. Consider the moments when you felt most emotionally weak. These usually involve attachment, dependence, fear of losing something or someone. The conditioned mind seeks affection like an addiction. It wants a quick response, immediate attention, constant validation. The problem is that this makes men manipulable. Any rejection is destabilizing. Therefore, those who begin to cultivate semen retention also need to observe. Where are they putting their emotional energy? Are they feeding themselves or emptying themselves? Emotional autonomy is built in everyday life. It means saying no when you want to say yes just to please. It means distancing yourself from those who drain you, even if it hurts. It means doing therapy, meditating, writing a reflection journal, practicing silence. A good exercise is: spend a weekend without social media, without seeking out conversations, just with yourself. Whatever comes up, you observe. Without running away. It is in this area that autonomy grows. And with it comes a powerful feeling. No one controls your mood anymore. And when a man understands this, he stops reacting like an emotional slave. He starts choosing who he connects with, when he gives himself, and why. Semen retention is like a catalyst for this maturation. Because by containing instinct, it releases clarity. And with clarity, illusion disappears. And that's when silence, the one that used to scare so much, begins to take on another meaning. Silence bothers those who have not yet learned to listen to themselves. At first, it seems empty, even frightening. But it is precisely in this space without noise that the deepest answers appear. The desensualized mind does not seek noise to distract itself, it withdraws, observes, contemplates. And in this state, true listening is born, not of the opinions of others, but of one's own soul. The person who allows himself to be silent begins to see himself without the masks that the world has taught him to wear. Nowadays, everything is a stimulus. Short videos, notifications, conversations, constant mental noise. Staying silent has almost become an act of rebellion. But it is in this void that men recover energy, clarity, and direction. Try, for example, walking alone for 30 minutes without a cell phone, without music, without talking to anyone. Just observe the sounds of the environment and your own thoughts. It seems simple, but it is transformative. It is in this type of practice that semen retention finds its fertile ground. Silence also shows how addicted we are to stimulation. Many men think they are bored, when in fact they are just unaccustomed to their own presence. And that is a problem. If you can't stand your own company, who else will? The desensualized mind, when practicing silence, begins to distinguish what is real desire and what is just an escape. And this changes everything, from emotional choices to professional decisions. It is in silence that man accesses what the ancients called the inner voice. That intuition that does not shout, but whispers. That does not ask for likes, but points out paths. But it does not appear when the mind is dominated by erotic thoughts, unbridled impulses, and reactive emotions. Semen retention calms the internal system, cleans the antenna, and strengthens listening. And from that point on, silence becomes a bridge, not to the outside, but to the inside. And it's curious, the deeper a man delves into the silence, the more he realizes how many decisions he made due to emotional conditioning. Those choices that seemed right were, in fact, reactions to unresolved wounds. And when he realizes this, a new question arises. What else was programmed inside me that I didn't even realize? Everything I'm explaining to you here, I explain more calmly in my ebook The Power of Semen Retention. It was made for those who are starting from scratch and want to know how to apply semen retention in their daily lives in a healthy way, without crazy things or exaggerations. It is a practical guide, straight to the point. From a young age, we are taught to seek love, approval, and affection as external rewards. When a child cries, he is told to swallow it. When he stands out, he receives applause. And so he grows up to be an adult trained to associate self-worth with the reflection of others. This is emotional conditioning, an invisible programming that makes a person believe that he needs to be loved in order to have value. The problem is that when love does not come, he feels like a nobody. This type of conditioning causes men to confuse attention with affection, validation with value, desire with deservingness. And so they enter into relationships not out of conscious choice, but out of need. How many times has a man gotten involved with someone just because they made him feel desired? And how many of those relationships worked out? The practice of semen retention exposes this pattern, because by breaking the cycle of quick reward, men begin to realize where their true emptiness comes from. Many people confuse neediness with passion. They think they are in love, but they are just thirsty for affection. And emotional conditioning is clever. It disguises itself as romanticism, as liking someone too much, when in reality it is just fear of being alone. A useful exercise is to list the reasons why you have ever gotten involved with someone. How many of them came from your essence? And how many were just attempts to fill an emotional void? Semen retention forces this internal inventory. By breaking this conditioning, a man stops begging for love and begins to emanate presence. He doesn't enter into relationships out of necessity, but out of affinity. He doesn't cling to the first crumb of attention, because he knows he's already whole. This changes the game. A man like this is difficult to manipulate, because he doesn't react to disinterest with desperation. He observes, understands, and moves on. Semen retention provides the basis for this firmness, because it strengthens the internal center of gravity. And when a man begins to act without being guided by emotional conditioning, he becomes a threat to the system. After all, there is nothing more dangerous to the control mechanisms than a man who does not need applause to remain firm. But this strength only fully reveals itself when he reaches the next stage, non-need as a source of real power. There is an almost invisible strength in a man who does not need to be desired to feel valuable. He walks differently, talks differently, thinks differently. This strength is born of non-need, a state where a man stops seeking and starts being. While most people are always chasing approval, attention, and affection, the man who cultivates semen retention enters a rare energy field, that of self-sufficiency. And that, my friend, changes everything. Imagine a man who walks into a room with no intention of impressing anyone. He doesn't need to make conversation, show off his car, or brag. And yet, everyone feels his presence. Why? Because he's not trying. And what he doesn't try, flows. This effortlessness is power. It's like a mountain, it doesn't move to be seen, but everyone looks at it. And that's what semen retention activates, a stability that commands respect without saying a word. The lack of need also protects. A man who doesn't need sex to feel like a man doesn't easily fall into emotional traps. He's not guided by neediness, but by discernment. He doesn't get into relationships that drain him, he doesn't waste himself trying to please others, he doesn't tolerate manipulation. This applies to everything: friendships, business, life choices. When a man feels complete, he wisely selects what deserves his energy. And then, he stops being reactive and starts being selective. This power is silent. It is not shouted, it is not flaunted, it is not displayed. It is perceived in the way a man walks, listens, and responds. A man does not need to prove anything because he has already proven himself. Semen retention feeds this energy consistently. Each day that he does not give in to addiction, it is as if he is putting on another layer of spiritual armor. And this translates into magnetism. Because what is full attracts, and what is needy repels. And the most impressive thing, this state does not make him insensitive. On the contrary, he becomes even more present. Because, without having to seek the desire of others, he can finally see the game clearly. And it is with this clear and centered mind that he begins to operate on another level, the level of conscious strategy. Most men live like pawns on a board they don't even know exists. They react to what happens, to what they feel, to what others do. But the man who controls his energy, mainly through semen retention, starts to play differently. He doesn't react, he thinks. He doesn't respond with impulse, but with intention. The desensualized mind is like a clean field where only the essential remains. And therein lies the birth of strategy, focus, and true vision. When impulse is king, men make hasty decisions. They enter into the wrong relationships, spend money to impress others, and waste time on distractions that take them away from their purpose. The strategic mind, on the other hand, calculates. It does not live in the now of desire, but in the after of the result. A practical example: instead of spending hours on pornography or social media, a focused man uses that time to study something that brings returns, like reading books, the 48 Laws of Power, learn copywriting, or invest in personal finances. Do you want to start your journey with awareness and security? Then click on the first pinned comment now, purchase the ebook, and take the first step towards your transformation. It's all there, clear, objective, and made for those who truly want to evolve. And what's more, a mind that is not a slave to visual stimuli or the need for validation can see patterns. It sees where energy is being wasted, notices people who are draining, businesses that are deceiving, paths that are taking a detour. It's like stepping out of a storm and looking at a map from above. This makes each step more effective. And this alone puts man light years ahead of those who still live as puppets of immediate pleasure. Semen retention is like a blade that cuts through the unnecessary. It demands presence, self-awareness, and choice. And these qualities, over time, shape a mind that decides its own destiny. A man who acts strategically does not let himself be carried away by the tide. He observes, calculates, prepares, and then moves. This applies to everything: in relationships, in business, in spirituality. He does not live by luck, he lives by well-applied intention. And it is at this point that a deeper transformation begins to emerge, almost invisible to the common eye. The man stops being just someone who seeks to improve, and becomes someone who lives in constant internal revolution. Silent, firm, relentless. A change that makes him unrecognizable to those who still live stuck in automatic mode. No one notices when it begins. There are no fireworks, no grand declarations. A man's inner revolution takes place in the silence of difficult choices, in the no's that no one sees, in the renunciations he makes while the world mocks his discipline. And it is there, in the darkness, that the soul grows stronger. The practice of semen retention is the trigger for this process. Because it demands something from man that society does not teach: constancy, purpose, and voluntary renunciation. Each day he chooses to hold on to is an act of rebellion against the system that wants him weak, confused, and enslaved by pleasure. But this revolution is not spread in words. It echoes in presence, in posture, in results. The man no longer needs to convince anyone that he has changed. He is simply someone else. And this being transforms everything around him. It is his energy that changes the environment. It is his silence that commands respect. It is the firmness in his eyes that reveals what not even 1,000 sentences would be able to explain. This change is subtle but radical. He starts sleeping better, thinking more clearly, making more informed choices. He no longer sabotages himself. He doesn't procrastinate as much. He gets up early, trains, studies, eats clean. And if he falls, he gets up quickly. Because now he knows what he's building. A man in internal revolution doesn't wait for motivation. He has clarity. And clarity is the most powerful fuel there is. Because when you know why, the how becomes a matter of time. Semen retention is a practice that requires more than willpower. It requires a new lifestyle. And this lifestyle becomes a shield against everything that once brought him down. Not because he has become a Superman, but because now he knows himself. He sees himself. He is guided by principles, not by impulses. And when this happens, the external world loses its power. Control shifts from the hands of others to his heart. But this revolution, as powerful as it is not the end. It is the beginning of a new phase. Because now, with clarity, silence, and focus, he is ready for something greater, transforming this energy into a legacy. And perhaps, for the first time, understanding that the true weapon of a modern man is not physical strength, nor status, but total self-mastery. Now tell me, how many times have you felt dominated by impulses you didn't even choose to have? How many times have you realized that your decisions were being guided more by lack than by clarity? The revolution you seek doesn't start outside, it starts inside. And it doesn't require you to be perfect, just that you commit to a new stance. The desensualized mind is not the absence of desire, it is mastery of one's own life force. And that is rare, and powerful. You may find it difficult, but ask yourself, what is harder? To continue being a hostage to your own impulses, or to begin today a process that will set you free forever? You have two choices: to continue on autopilot or to take the wheel of your life. And it all starts with a simple decision: to take care of your energy as if you were protecting a treasure. Because that is what it is. So, what do you think? Are you going to keep reacting, or are you going to start planning? Are you going to live in need, or are you going to build presence? Leave a comment below with the things that struck you most in this video. I want to know, which of these ideas turned a key in your life? Which one made you see your own life with new eyes? If you like this content and want to continue this journey of internal strengthening, you already know: like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share it with anyone who needs to hear it. Here, we don't talk to please, we talk to awaken. And the next step starts with you.